I am pleased to introduce to you this morning Rajani Gudlavalleti, who is a lead community organizer for the Baltimore Harm Reduction Coalition, which advocates to end the racist war on drugs and anti-sex worker policies. You would have seen her yesterday on the Criminal Justice and Reform panel. Rajani is also a consultant with the Baltimore Racial Justice Action, co-organizer of Baltimore Asian Resistance and Solidarity, and a former board member for Foundation Beyond Belief. The title of her program, talk this morning is Untangling Hinduism. Please give a warm welcome this morning to Rajani.
Thank you. I am a walker and a talker, so I'm going to get this. And I also don't necessarily have a script, so somebody just tell me when I should stop talking about it. I'm also not really feeling Q&A, if that's cool. So I'm just going to talk, and then if I feel like answering questions later one-on-one, I will, and if I don't, then I won't. And I'll be like, yo, what you want to get this coffee? Or be like, what's up, friend? And like walk away from you. In a very casual manner, be like, I'll just be right back, and then ghost. That's my favorite. So I am Rajani. Let's all take a moment and think about that name and then say it all out loud together. It is Rajani. Say it with me. Rajani. Ra, like ra. Rajani. Rajani. I don't care if you have a friend named Raj. My name's not Raj. Never cared if you had a friend named Raj, and that's why you think my name is Rajani. It's not Rajani. It's always the thing that people say to me. Rajani. Next year we'll go on my last name, right? But this year we're doing Rajani. The second thing, she's gonna hate this. My mother is right here. She's looking at me so mad. My mother! Everybody celebrate my mother. We spent the week, she lives in California. We spent the week with my cousin and her husband and my Emma's brother and these babies all weekend who were super cute, and so we visited family. We used this opportunity to visit family in the suburbs of Chicago, and then my Emma demanded that she be here today, so I'm going to be trying to be as respectful as possible this morning. So please thank her for all of her amazing work, and I'm going to cry if I keep thinking about it. She's brilliant. So that's me. I'm talking about untangling Hinduism. In the program it said South Asian identity. Hopefully you realize this is more specifically what I'm talking about. Hopefully if you weren't sure what South Asian identity was, one thing I'll say is yesterday we had some amazing speakers who are Pakistani, South Asians of all descents, who are Muslim or ex-Muslim, former Muslim. Those are also South Asian identities, right? We are not a monolith. And so I want to thank Sadia Hamid for talking about her experience as a South Asian person, and I am also going to do the same. So, let me figure out science. Cool. Rajani, you heard my bio. That's a phonetic spelling of my name. That's also me possibly being disrespectful in front of a Hindu temple when I was a little kid, and me finding an own graffiti in Baltimore. From all I'm going to say, actually I'm not even going to say much. That's my bio thing. Basically, you heard it. I am also a writer. You wouldn't know it because I'm nervous about putting that in public, and I'm rare to ever say publicly that I am a writer, but I'm trying. So help me out with that. And I've been working last year. I was very grateful to be invited to be a Gardarev Fellow. Gardarev Center is a program that focuses on people of color, queer folks, and brings us into a kind of silent writing retreat. And so I spent a week in New Hampshire in November, and I thought I was going to have writer's block, but instead I found myself floating around in all of my millions of essays I want to write, and so I'm very excited, and of course have not really written anything since. Because if you heard my talk yesterday, I do a lot of really intense work, really intense work around harm reduction, ending the racist war on drugs, ending overdose, ending criminalization in Baltimore. And so I get tired, and I don't really necessarily have time to write. But I'm asking for my secular community to maybe help me hold me accountable to writing and whatnot. All right. Hopefully you can see this all right, with the lights and everything. I thought it would be really important as I talk about what untangling Hinduism means to me, to kind of describe also who I am and who my family is, because that's important, right? And as many of us know, particularly people of color, these religious backgrounds that we may have been raised into are so intertwined with our cultural identities and our cultural backgrounds, especially when we've been moved or have moved voluntarily or involuntarily into a mostly white place or a colonized land, right? And so it's really, really hard to figure out, okay, I'm Indian American, I was born in the United States, I'm not necessarily identifying with this religion of Hinduism, but I really love the sound of the bell. And I really love the sound of when my Amma's mother, when my Amma is praying. It brings me calm. And I was actually talking with my new friend Anais about this. It's just so calming. And even though I'm not necessarily connected with a higher power resounding with it, I'm connected with her power, I think. And so there's that in it. So what does it mean to be ex-Hindu? I don't know. I've never heard anybody actually say that out loud. I'm ex-Hindu. I don't know what that means. So this is our history. This is my history and the history of my people. India, Canada, USA. So like I said, I'm the first, I actually don't know if I said this as proudly as I should. I'm the very first of my family born in the United States. My parents, my Amma, my dad, my brother, who was a 6-month-old baby. So imagine these folks with a bag or two coming from Hyderabad, India, South India, February 1980. I'm like looking at her for dates. February 1980, going to Toronto, Canada, with a 6-month-old baby. My brother, very dramatic. Still is a dramatic 40-year-old man, was a dramatic 6-month-old baby. Love him so much. He's an actor, so it's okay that I say that. He's a beautiful, wonderful human. So imagine this, right? Imagine that you are moving across the world with whatever possessions you're able to bring and the limited baggage you're able to carry with a 6-month-old baby into Toronto, Canada in February. Ooh, I don't even want to I want a coat suddenly, right? Like I'm like really cool. So that is what my parents did, okay? And they moved from India, and this map, that is, I don't know, about a week or two of a workshop on India, South Asia, and the partition. I'm not going to describe it right now. Google the partition. Know that that is basically the British imperialized South Asia, and when they left in 1947, they were like, y'all figure it out, but we really think it's the best for you if the Muslim folks are here in Pakistan, East and West at the time, now Pakistan and Bangladesh, and if all the Hindus are in India. We're now going to create these arbitrary lines. We're going to force you all to migrate in about 48 hours. That is millions of people getting on trains, also fear-mongering and encouraging violence coming from the colonizers. Whew, as part of our history. Now, as a South Indian, I'm from, my family's from Hyderabad in South India, little distance from that specific migration, but it's still in my blood, right? It's still in my history too. So that's part of my past, my present. And then we get to my parents moving to Canada. These are more cute kid pictures at the bottom. Top is a very interesting parallel of my mother's generation on the left, I think, saying goodbye to them or something. I'll ask her later. And then my generation on the right, saying hello to each other when we went to visit India when I was about 3, which was the first time I was in India ever. So these parallels, these patterns of history repeating, right? And then at the end is one of my favorite pictures when my mother got her US citizenship a few years ago. I was super excited and I got way too many balloons. But that is the history of my family, that's me, right? You don't need to read all this. Just know that this slide could be very, very long. With all of that history that I just very briefly described to you, people say the wildest things to me. People say wild things to me. And so I spent much of my time, this room is getting so much busier, okay. It's cool, sorry, I have a moment of nerves, we're good. So, it took me a long time to even be able to have room to say and think about what my relationship was to God's spirituality. Like a really long time. Because I spent so much of the time getting ridiculed with thoughts, with kids saying Gandhi dot at me, running around chasing me on a playground. What does that even mean? Gandhi and dot, those are the two things you know about India, and you throw it together, right? But that's what these kids would say. Running around, calling me Gandhi dot, da 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 da. Teachers, actual teachers, telling me, it's so nice that you're friends with Fazia, because you know she's Muslim. I'm like, white lady French teacher, you don't know anything about this. Why are you saying anything to me? I'm 15 years old, Fazia's cool. Calm down. Right, but I didn't say any of that to her because I wanted an A. I don't know why she's that bad to me. And I go back home and I'm like, why can't I be friends with Muslim people? Very complicated. And of course my family being very supportive was like, don't listen to her, she's full of crap. You can be friends with who you want, right? But this is the type of thing because people hear or learn these very little bits and they think they know. Oh, your name must be Rajani because Raj, I have a friend named Raj, he's in IT. Don't give a crap about your friend Raj in IT. I am not in IT and I'm not Raj. My name's Rajani, right? These sort of things that I'm constantly battling every single day. From bosses, supervisors, people who think they're my friend, dudes hollering at me on the street, right? All sorts of stuff that's happening. It all has to do with what people perceive to be my racial identity, my cultural identity, the languages I speak, my gender. And all of it is intertwined with assumptions about Hinduism, assumptions that I'm docile Hindu girl. Believe me when I tell you, the most religious women in my family, not docile. Very Hindu, not docile, will tell you what's up, right? So even that's not true. So I spent so much of my life, at 34, just to put it out there, I'd say maybe 5 years ago, I was like, maybe I'm gonna start thinking about who I am and what I'm doing. Instead of constantly, because that is what people of color are forced to do. We are forced into a corner to constantly be reactive. In this white supremacist society, we have to be so reactive to this white supremacist air we breathe and water we drink that we don't get time to breathe ourselves in our own air to think about, wait, who am I? What am I? Oh, what is this? What is this dark skin? I don't know. Let's talk about it. And so I call it kind of decolonizing my mind. I've been thinking of it as decolonization, which actually comes to a term from indigenous folks. Let me not try to take that or co-opt that as an indigenous to this land term around decolonization of our beings and our bodies. So I consider that to be very necessary. So for me, exploring atheism has been a means of decolonizing my mind, not necessarily from Hinduism, but from what people perceive of me because of racist assumptions of Hinduism, right? So with all that said, I'm atheist. All right, next thing. I hate when we're at a conference. It's like, let's talk about being atheist for 3 days. I'm like, okay, I'm bored. Let me talk about something else. I'm also lots of other things. And what I've come to realize, which has been very painful, and now we're going to get into some serious vulnerable stuff that I've never really talked about in public, so let's do it. I am atheist, but I cannot walk away from Hinduism. I cannot. 3 big reasons why. Something I talk about maybe 98% of my life is the fact that racism and Orientalism oppress me. Don't know what Orientalism is? Google it. But if I'm constantly doing that because I am in a racist, anti-black United States that is built on genocide and slavery, and I was born here and I'm proud to be here, and I want my family to live and breathe here and thrive here, then I'm going to spend all day, every day fighting for the liberation of us and my loved ones who are black and brown and queer, right? Disabled everybody. That's exhausting, so I spent a whole lot of time on that first one, and then I started to, maybe in the past year or so, to be quite honest with you, think about Hindu caste system and its interactions with me in my life. I'm going to be very honest in saying I really don't know much about the caste system at all. Not for anybody's fault, just because I think when I was younger and I first heard about the caste system in an arbitrary, probably from a white colonist perspective, I thought, that's messed up, let me not be about that life. I walked on away into my atheism, right? If I don't ascribe to Hinduism, then I'm not ascribing to the Hindu caste system, right? I have no accountability to it, right? So I'm just going to walk on down, right, away from it. That's not possible, is what I've really come to realize in recent years. And that is because I have privilege. I'm speaking English right now with the Californian accent, really. I'm not gonna say without an accent, I have a Californian accent. Let's all be honest about that. But I'm doing that, right? I have a master's degree from Johns Hopkins University. My father has a PhD in engineering. My brother has a degree in engineering. He's an actor, all these things. My mother has worked very hard and also has some privileges, but also has a lot, right? We're all dealing with all of these pieces of our oppression and our privilege, and the privilege mostly being that we speak English in a mostly English-dominant world, right? Many Indian people and millions of Hindus can't say that because they weren't allowed to be part of an English school due to caste system. These are things I've had to really think about and learn. Those are the privileges of not me necessarily, right? But those are my ancestors. So these are things I'm really thinking about. The Hindu caste system asserts power to me whether I want it to or not. Much like, some of y'all are thinking it, white privilege. So I'm going here all day, every day, talking to white people being like, you got privilege. I'm not gonna tell you how or why. You gotta figure it out, but I'm gonna let you know you do. I know you're poor. My partner, my boyfriend, comes from a very poor, he's white man, and he comes from a very poor blue-collar, like, family, you know. And it's really hard. Between us, he gets it, right? I wouldn't be with him otherwise. But family are like, I don't understand what she means by privilege. Like, we didn't have water, we didn't have running water, all these things. I'm like, that's awful. People should have running water in this country that owns everything. And you still have white privilege. Can't really, right? So if I'm going around talking about that, untangling that for white people all day, I can't also be a hypocrite and not think about the privileges I hold in a system that I might not necessarily live in my daily life, but it's part of the existence of many of my peers and people I want to fight with for liberation, right? And the third piece, it's also hard, is at the end of the day, the cultural practices ground me. Even though I'm atheist, right? Even though I don't necessarily believe in the powers or the mythology or anything, I believe in the power it has in inspiring people, right? Or even just, again, wearing this kurta, this top, wearing the bindi, wearing the bangles, makes me feel more comfortable. It did not make me feel comfortable for most of my life because of racism. But I'm like, imbuing myself with cultural pride by saying, like, I don't care what you think. I'm gonna wear what I want because this is beautiful. And it comes from my people, and my mother bought it for me, so everyone can back off, right? But these are things that ground me, and again, that's fighting. That's still fighting. And all of that to say, the cultural practices ground me, and that's that frustrating thing that I could talk about forever around white secularism, saying, but if you do this, if you wear the bindi, you know that's a religious thing. Do you? What do you know about it? Back off. Also, I grew up with Gwen Stefani wearing a bunch of these on her forehead, singing punk rock. So y'all can back off further, right? Like, there's just not. Anyway, I'm just really rambling. I don't even know what's going on. Okay, all of this is true. All of this is true. All of this is challenging. I don't have answers for these things. I just know that they're true. So, I can't talk about the caste system without putting up a slide about it. This is from the internet. The source is on the bottom. The source is caste in the US, Dalits face discrimination in South Asian American institutions by Mridula Chari in 2018. You can take a picture of this later if you want to look further into this article, into this image. This image has taught me. So I'm not going to try to be an expert in describing this image. Here's what I'll say. From what I understand, these are the Hindi terms, and there's many, many languages in India. My family speaks Telugu, so our terms are a little different. But there are 5 castes, it depends on who you ask. Brahmins are at the top. My family's in there somewhere. That's my truth. Kshatriyas are next, Vaishyas, Shudras, and then you'll see Adavasis and Dalits underneath. Now, people have tended to know this group as untouchables. Which I don't know about y'all, but that is a really, really terrible term. So I was very excited when I finally learned thousands of years after these terms were developed that Dalits and Adavasis are names that people ascribe themselves, cultural ties, tribal names, etc. Again, I don't know enough, but I will say this is something I'm learning from. So I will read a little bit of it just to say, the Vasis are indigenous people of South Asia. For self-determination and political cultural autonomy, they fight against the stripping of their ancestral land and its natural resources. They sound dope. Dalits, caste communities that were forced by caste apartheid into slave and bonded agricultural labor and undignified sanitation work like manual scavenging, branded untouchable for jobs considered spiritually polluting. They struggle against extreme violence and discrimination. So Dalit is the term for I believe most people who are part of this group that are considered untouchable. Again, I shouldn't even talk about it, I'm not an expert. With that said, these are terms of people, so there's Dalit power. During the Black Power movement and Malcolm X advocacy, there was Dalit, like Black Panther parties. What, right? In South Asia. Because they're like, wait, what are they doing over there? I don't know how anybody learned about anything. Listen, without social media, I'm like, how did you know? But there were Black Panther parties. Understand, right? So people talk about how MLK learned from Gandhi, which Gandhi also is complicated. I don't want to talk about him. I'm not like putting him on a pedestal. But people talk about that, but they don't talk about the other way, right? Yeah. So these are aspects of it. This other piece in here says, it's basically talking about how this pyramid, this social constructed pyramid, goes from high to low around access, ownership to resources and opportunities. So with all of that said, what's very important, well, I'm just going to move on. This is a structure that I'm, again, still learning about. Hopefully you will all take the time to learn about it too, and specifically learn from Dalit and Adivasi activists, of which there are many. Here's where I had my mind blown one day, when I was drinking coffee in the morning before work and scrolling around Instagram. And a friend of mine named Sonali, who's an amazing Philly advocate, South Asian advocate, re-shared something from somebody who goes by the name Anti-Caste Cat, who's a Dalit organizer who's also Dalit, so similar family background. And it was different slides, you know, Instagram, you like have to keep sliding, right? These like 5 pictures. So I'm like, okay, talking about Brahmins, I can handle it. Like my family's Brahmin, but I'm cool, it's fine. So the first one says, note, when woke Brahmins talking about non-woke Brahmins and the whole Brahmin community, please don't use the third person and other your community as if you're not a Brahmin. You too get all the privileges that non-woke Brahmins have. Don't act famous. Woke being maybe social justice warrior, etc., right? That's the kind of term. So I was like, it's cool, I'm not going around calling myself woke. This doesn't apply to me. Next. Because what are you going to do? I'm Aries, and I'm like, Brahmins everywhere who will talk as if they aren't Brahmin only, as if they don't have any privilege by simply not mentioning their own privilege of how rich their family is, what generation they are, etc. Also, oh, we don't take money from our parents, so don't take that family property also, distribute the generational wealth, and then talk. I hate my family, they are patriarchal, they are casteist, nonsense, etc. The thing is, my family's not wealthy. My family's not wealthy, not rich, have had to work very, very hard and experience some major American dream stuff, right? Moving, evictions, etc. I am in so much student loan debt, I am dodging them like nothing. They don't even know I'm in Chicago, like don't even post it. Ninja. Who's Rajani? I don't know, right? It's just like, you're calling my brother, he's like, I don't know a Rajani. Like, it's wild. That's what's happening, right? So I don't have wealth. So I'm like, it doesn't apply to me, I'm not rich, I don't have wealth. Also, I'm dark skinned, so like I got these like anti-blackness sort of colorism things going on. So this doesn't apply to me. Okay, I'm cool. Like it's that like, I'm okay, right? Here's what messed me up. Whew. Y'all, if you could be there at my table with this coffee, I was like, what? Okay, and the poor woke Brahmins. Which generation learner are you, Hannah? Was it your great-grandfather a teacher at school? I think he was. Or a small government job? What is being poor according to you? You're poor because you don't own land, but is some fifth-generation lawyer, teacher, etc. Remember that time I said I went to Johns Hopkins? Okay. And all Brahmins, you never need to hide your identity as you're scared of not getting a house or rent, job, respect because of your caste. Your surname, your last name, right, gives you all the privileges at your feet. Your wokeness should acknowledge that too. Use we, us when you talk about Brahmanism. Thank science for Instagram. Thank anti-caste cat out there in the world. I appreciate you so much. You didn't have to teach my Brahmin privilege, and here we are. That really messed me up. It really messed me up. And I was like, this sounds verbatim what I say to white people. And I am right now not about to talk about how I'm the same as white people. We're not going to do that. We are in the United States. I still experience racism. Whiteness has power here, period. Is in a global sense, and when I interact with other South Asians who were raised Hindu or might be of various castes, this is something I need to consider. As I'm doing my liberation work, this is what I need to consider. Also, what I need to consider is that Brahmin supremacy, for many reasons, has power in India in a political sense. It is illegal to ask about caste when hiring people. It is illegal to ask about caste in a variety of ways. You know people still do that stuff. Don't tell me that with a name that sounds black on a resume, people are like not going to have their implicit racist bias going on. That's illegal, right? Still happens. It happens everywhere. It's human behavior. So, where was I? God, I'm like getting lost. Okay, Brahmin supremacy and white supremacy. Here's what's rough. That up there is a picture of the Prime Minister of India, BFFs with President Trump. Man, he was in Houston just hugging up on him. Talking all about their powers combined, the good immigrants. Let's get good immigrants in here, not those bad immigrants. Bad immigrants being, right, South American, let's be racist. But also only certain kinds who speak English, let's be real. And have certain jobs, let's be real. And maybe you're a little bit lighter skinned, because we don't want too many browns in here, right? They're hugging up on each other in Houston 2 weeks ago. And then my favorite thing, if you Google this, you'll see this video that's wild. It's Hindus for Trump, behind the uneasy alliance with right-wing U.S. politics. There was an event, I have no idea what time it is, by the way, just talking. Okay, there was an event during election year 2016, Hindus for Trump, in which it was in New Jersey. If you're from New Jersey, you know what's up, all Indians. And it was a Bollywood bash, and they had Bollywood stars, big, huge stars, dancing and singing on a giant stage. It was this huge thing. And if you look at the flyer, for real, this flyer had Bollywood stars. It was free buffet, $150 to get in though. This thing was packed. This place was packed with Desis, with South Asians. And in the top corner of that flyer, this is brought to you by the Trump campaign, and he's going to be your keynote speaker. Wow. His little orange face in the corner. I was like, what is this? This is wild. And there's videos of this. And the dances that were being performed at this thing, people were doing Bollywood dances with all camouflage and guns. And I hate to say this, trigger warning for my ex-Muslim friends. Definitely some wild Islamophobic, racist, terrorists are coming in. Well, good thing the Hindus of America and the white people of America are coming together to fight the Muslim terrorists in a dance fight. It was this whole thing. I was 24 the musical. It was really weird and upsetting and awful, and everyone in here is can I laugh? It's yeah, you can laugh because we have to laugh through pain. This is obnoxious, and people were cheering. They're yeah. And they were cheering because that's their favorite Bollywood star singing and dancing 100 feet from them. You'd be freaking out, right? I'm saying Whitney, I know, rest in peace, but if Whitney Houston, you're at a show and she's 100 feet from you, you'll be screaming too. Even though she's saying all sorts of wild stuff she used to say, you're yeah, it's Whitney. That is what people do. And there are articles with aunties and uncles who were I didn't know what was going on. I came for the samosas. For real. There's quotes I don't know who that guy is. I don't even vote here. I'm not a citizen. because I can't get citizenship. It's wild. Okay, I'm gonna go on about it. This is what my people, like, they're also trying to kill me too. Like, I'm queer, I'm dark-skinned, all the things. I'm yelling all the time on the internet. Of course these people are trying to kill me too. Trying to kill my brother, who's a major activist in science advocacy. They're coming after us. So am I in alliance with these folks? The thing is, they are also upholding Brahmin supremacy. So I gain privilege from what they're fighting for. And if I don't say anything, I'm still gaining privilege even though they're coming after me. It's complicated and I spin around in this. This is a quote from a book I haven't read yet, but it's a very interesting quote that I've been following. The book is called The Truth About Us, The Politics of Information, From Manu to Modi, Modi being the current Prime Minister, by Sanjay Chakravorty. It came out in May 2019. This quote is about British imperialism. Here's the thing, this isn't brand new. This whole best friendship is not brand new. So, the quote is, the social categories of religion and caste, as they are perceived in modern-day India, were developed during the British colonial rule, which is like 140 or something years. At a time when information was scarce and the colonizers' power over information was absolute. With only a couple minutes left for me, I'm just going to let that sit for a moment. Think about how that could be written literally right now in the United States or in India right now. So here's the thing. We all need to learn all the time. I need to learn a lot. In this camera, I don't know if people are filming. I'm not an expert. I'm sorry if I said anything messed up. I'm trying. We're all trying. So here are some things to follow and read. Deepa Mehta, if you watch movies, these movies are dope. It's a 3-movie collection. Deepa Mehta was kicked out of India because she did these movies. The first one's about lesbianism. It's amazing. It's called Fire.
Yes.
Yes, Fire. Ooh. Yes. Oh, this woman falls in love with a woman who's like her nanny. It's a whole thing in India. And then Earth, which is about partition. Very powerful, very intense movie. Water, which is about child rights. Also tough. Water kind of got a lot of attention. So those are a 3-movie collection. The Making of Asian America. Please, please, please read that book. It's long. Asians have been in the Americas, South America, North America, since the 1500s. It's wild. This book broke me open and really even further solidified why I need to do this work. By Erica Lee, The Making of Asian America. It's a history book. This book is really B.R. Ambedkar was a Dalit activist. He actually called out Gandhi quite a bit for his anti-blackness and for his casteism and his sexism. Ambedkar doesn't really get attention, but he wrote a lot. And in his works have been translated to English. The Weave of My Life is from Dalit women, stories from Dalit women. And then Unruly Immigrants by Monisha Dasgupta, talking a lot more about Asian and particularly South Asian American immigrant experiences. Folks who follow on Insta, not foundation, what am I talking about? Everyone's a foundation, I'm saying these words. Facebook exhausts me, so I don't really have Facebook things for you. But Divya Kandapuri is the anti-caste cat. Thank you again, Divya. Sonali Brown History is just this really cool Instagram page that shares these different pictures of history. And then Aravani Art Project, I can't talk about this without talking about the Aravani Art Project. Those are folks who are hijras, so trans women in India. It's like a group home, but also this is like dope spot. They do art, they put it on the internet, they make clothes, they like have dances. They're just amazing and do a lot of advocacy. So Aravani Art Project, Indian trans women, otherwise known as hijras, that's their Instagram. Thank you. I don't have a book for a table. Inevitably, I want a book for a table. If y'all can help me out, that'd be super cool. I need accountability. So I need, writing retreats. Yes. I need money to go to these writing retreats. Yes. So send some coins. I have a Venmo and a PayPal up there. Thank you, Women of Color Beyond Belief, for paying for me to come here, or else I wouldn't have been able to afford it. And for giving a hotel room for me. Also wouldn't have been able to afford that. So I need coins. Thank you. Thank you for this conference. Contact me if you want. That's the end. Thank you.